back again. And look who's sitting over here to my right. Well, thousands of miles away is our good friend Mel. Mel, so good to have you back again. You've been traveling over the summer. I've been traveling. My wife and I, we were in Italy and then we were in Switzerland, introducing all this new material on the historical critique. And you've been working on it meanwhile, and you and Murad have been coming up with some real game changers, some real cliffhangers concerning the name Muhammad or Muhammad. Now, that's why I've asked you to come on board. You've already introduced this on your own channel, Origins. You can see the URL right here at the bottom. You've done a one or two or three different videos already on this, but I wanted you here to really engage with you, to unpack it, and to show the significance. Because here's the problem. Whenever you use the name Muhammad, whenever you bring it up, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what location or what venue or what group you're with. Then what comes to mind is Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, because that is what Muslims have really ingrained us to believe. There is only one Muhammad. There is only one person with that name, and that is the Prophet that they believe was born in 570, that started receiving revelations in 610 AD, and then moved to Medina in 622 AD, and then died in Medina in 632 AD, all within what is the central part of Arabia, the Hijaz. That's what they're saying, and that's what we've all believed. So whenever you hear the name Muhammad, when people are named that today, they're naming their sons after the Prophet Muhammad, and it's always the Prophet Muhammad. So therefore, whenever we say, hold on a minute, which Muhammad are we talking about? Whenever we get into this discussion, Muslims always come up and say, well, yes, he is well known in the 7th century. There are lots of references to Muhammad in the 7th century. Therefore, why are we having this question? You're asking for evidence here. Thomas of Presbyter, he talks about it. The Doctrine Jacobi refers to it. The writings of Sabaeus, they all refer to Muhammad. There's Muhammad is this man, and every time they refer to this man Muhammad, it is the Muhammad of Islam, the Muhammad of Arabia, the Muhammad of Mecca and Medina. That Muhammad there is what they're talking about. But you're saying, hold on a minute. So Mel, there is another category. You're going to introduce something new about this. And it may be, from what I'm hearing you say, that the Muhammad that actually is in the 7th century actually predates the 7th century. There's not just one Muhammad, and the Muhammad we think is the man of Islam, you're going to tell me is not the Muhammad of Islam. So over to you. I don't want you to give everything out, but why are we doing this series, and what is it you're going to whet our appetites with so that people will come back to watch the rest of the episodes?
Yeah, well, it was interesting you use the word name. We think of Muhammad as a name. But actually, what this series is going to argue, first of all, is that it's a title, but it's also a word that had a wider meaning, and there's a history behind it. So that when we look at the 7th century, if we look at the coins, if we look at the inscriptions, we can't just assume that when it uses the word Mahmed, that is actually referring to a specific person. Because if it's a title, then it could be anyone, or it could be a concept. It doesn't even need to be a person. So, for example, if we talk about the Tayyaye of Muhammad, well, do we know for certain that is a person, or is that just, something else? So the other thing that we're going to be looking at is the fact that this word is nothing new. It didn't just come out of thin air in the 7th century. It goes way back. We're talking centuries back. So if Muslims want to assume that every time we see Mahmed in the 7th century, that's the Prophet of Islam, well, they have a major problem on their hands if we start seeing inscriptions or coins or other references to a Mahmed prior to the 7th century. So there is definitely something there for everyone to want to see later on,
In fact, what you're going to be showing, it's not even just the 7th century. You're going to be going back hugely to the BC era. You're going to be showing us going all the way back, even to into the Old Testament era, what we know is the Old Testament era. You're going to be talking about even things as far back as Solomon and David, the King David and King Solomon.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 1000 BC. This name appears. This is going to be fun because that will dispel this idea that this is a man that comes from the 7th century AD. It's been around for an awful lot longer. And we need to shut down this argument that Muslims claim that name for themselves, and that every time you see that name, it has to be their Muhammad, and it has to be their Muhammad living in Mecca and Medina in the Hijaz. But we don't want to jump the gun. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We do want to introduce this as such, and we want to go and bring people along with us. So we're gonna end this episode. This is just an introductory episode to tell you where we're gonna go. In the next episode, you're going to start looking at some of those origins, and you're actually going to go back and look at the Bible itself. Without telling us too much, what do you plan to do in the next episode that we're going to come up with? I really will call it episode number 2.
So we're going to look at the Hebrew words in the Bible which are connected to Mahmed. And we're going to look at the meanings of that. And what we're going to find is got nothing to do with an Arabian prophet. And I think the meanings are going to be quite enlightening. And I think you'll see that it should be Christians who get excited about this word. It's actually bad news for Muslims because it isn't who they think it's about.
Christians and Jews. Great. Terrific. Folks,
Christians and Jews, yeah, exactly.
I hope we whetted your appetite. Stay on board. We've got a whole new era to look into. And this is not confronting Quran so much. We're now confronting the person Muhammad. Who exactly is this Muhammad that is so well known for centuries? He or it has been well known. Stay with us. Till next time, this is Jay and Mel, over and out.